Shiny Pokemon are easily the rarest thing you can find in any Pokemon game. In Pokemon Black 2, this remains true, as the odds of finding a shiny are about 1 in every 8,192 encounters. Knowing this, I still decided to absolutely torture myself by trying to beat Pokemon Black 2 using only shiny Pokemon. And as if that wasn't grueling enough, we're also going to be adding on the hardcore Nuzlocke rules that you see on screen now. With all of that out of the way, I'm ready to get into this game, so I named myself Zango and head out to look for my starter. Figuring out which one to hunt for was a tricky decision, but in the end, I decided on Tepig. It's got the best shiny of the three, and with Black 2 being an extremely difficult game, I wanted something with a solid matchup against the 8 gym leaders. Also, who really wants an Oshawott? As I mentioned earlier, the odds of finding a shiny are about 1 in every 8,192 encounters. With each time I encounter a Tepig taking a little over 30 seconds, that's about 2 encounters per minute, 120 per hour, and an estimated time to find my shiny in about 68 hours. Shockingly, I ended up getting insanely lucky, and it only took about 18 hours to land myself this shiny Tepig. Little did I know, this luck was about to quickly turn around in my first battle against my rival. I guess he heard what I said earlier about his Oshawott because he meant business, hitting me with a critical hit tackle on the first turn. Of course, my tackle wasn't a crit, but regardless, we still should be fine. We've got a lot of health and a lot of time left in this battle. That's what I thought before getting hit by a second critical hit that took out the rest of my Tepig's HP. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I can't even do anything there. I am just at the mercy of luck. This entire challenge, by the way, but right here, there's no planning around it. All I can do is spam tackle, and I get crit twice in a row. It was at this point in the video that I vowed to never lose a shiny again, and for the rest of the run, I'd be looking to complete it 100% deathless. I'm getting a little ahead of myself though, since we just lost that run, those 18 hours are flushed down the toilet, and we have to restart. So I go ahead and reset the game, nicknaming my rival Loser, as well as pushing forward to look for another shiny starter. This one took a decent bit longer than the last, as it was about 43 hours before I landed my next shiny Tepig. There it is. We got another one. Let's go. Let's go, man. Another shiny Tepig. That's so great. Oh my gosh. Hopefully this one doesn't have to eat 2 crits. This Tepig is an attack down and special defense up nature, which is honestly really bad. Along with that, I thought I might mention that I can't actually start the nickname theme here, since it would have made the shiny hunt take about 40 times longer, but if you do find out what it is later on in the video, then leave it in the comments down below. With that out of the way, it's time for the dreaded battle against my rival, but this time I'm able to beat the brakes off him. After this, Bianca takes me around town showing me how to do Pokemon things, and even tries to show me how to catch a Pokemon like I haven't done this a billion times. A little bit past this point, I watch Alder jump off a cliff, definitely breaking both of his legs. Then he decides to walk around and sniff me, which I thought was pretty weird. I sprinted away from that freak all the way into Velocity Ranch, where I found myself in another rival battle. When Loser can't get any crits, this battle is easy, so I defeat him without breaking a sweat and have to go find this herdier. I do that by traveling around the woods for a little bit until eventually I stumble upon him, as well as a Team Plasma member. Not really sure why Team Plasma's here. They kind of just tell me some whole blah 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 and just move on. All this sends me back towards the first city, where I get myself ready to challenge Charon. Alder then traumatizes me again, breaking his legs for the second time in this video, and also hands me some orange berries, which will be really useful. Even with those though, I'm not really sure if I can beat Charon with just my Tepig. He has a Patrat and a Lillipup, and both of those might be a little bit too much for me to handle. That being said, it's time for my next shiny hunt, so I move back to Route 20, run around in the grass for a little bit until I eventually encounter a shiny Sewaddle. This was a pretty quick shiny, only taking about 8-ish hours, and once Sewaddle got in the ball, I gave him the nickname Ramos. He's got a neutral nature, and after bringing him up to level 13, we're finally ready to go into the first gym and challenge the gym leader, Charon. He leads the battle with his Patrat as I bring out Ramos, my Sewaddle. With Sewaddle, I start with a Bug Bite, doing about 2/3 as Patrat sets up with a workup. To be honest, that was completely pointless, since after another Bug Bite, Patrat is taken care of, and the final Pokemon Lillipup comes in. Lillipup actually outspeeds me and starts with a tackle, bringing me down to 28 as I then go for a Bug Bite, not even doing half. A pair of tackles in the next turn takes me down to 19 HP and leaves Lillipup just outside of healing range. That was exactly exactly what I was aiming for because all I need to do now is go for one more bug bite to take down the Lillipup, and with that, I've won my first gym badge. There are now 7 gyms remaining, and if I want to complete this run deathless, I have to worry about every single one of them. I feel like I'm most afraid of Drayden and his dragon type since that typing is broken in this game, but Elisa and Skyla have really solid teams, so I'm not really sure. For now though, I have to focus on what's in front of me, and for some reason, it's this random hiker dude. I deal with him easily, then head into Burbank City where I meet the gym leader, Roxy. She calls this random captain dude a dim-witted, dense, dumb, daft, dippy, dorky, doltish doofus, which was really hard for me to say. Even though she's got a potty mouth, we gotta get ready for a fight against her, so I run around in the grass for a little bit to fight some Autonos. This gives me some additional EVs and brings my Tepig up to the level cap, evolving him into a Pignite. With my new and improved team, I can walk into the second gym and challenge Roxy. She leads this battle with coughing as I bring out my Pignite and start by going for a flame charge. This does about a third as coughing then hits me with a tackle, only doing 9 HP. On the next turn, a critical hit takes the rest of coughing's health, and that brings in the ace Pokemon, Whirlipede. Whirlipede's a part bug type, which means my flame charges are now super effective, so all I need to do is go for a few of those until eventually she goes down and I've defeated Roxy. Now that I've earned my second badge, I can go do everybody's favorite part of these games, Pokestar Studios. Nah, I'm just kidding. This is definitely the most boring part of this game. Like, look, even the NPCs are sleeping. Regardless, I try to get out of there as quickly as possible so I can get ready for Castelia City. As I'm doing that, I end up encountering Team Plasma, who I easily beat, and from there, I can sail straight into Castelia. Now that I'm here, I immediately have to go on a wild goose chase looking for a couple of Team Plasma members that snuck away. After getting a few good items, I find them in the sewer for whatever reason, and me and my rival beat them up. After this battle, I'm gifted the HM for strength, as well as a meeting with Colress that I didn't ask for. Colress is one of those battles later on that could be devastating for my team, as he has the steel type, which is the best defensive typing in the entire game. He's also gonna have 5 Pokemon, but that's not a problem I have to worry about now though, since I get to go fight the bug gym with my fire type. As soon as I get into this gym, I evolve my Swaddle into Swadloon, but I'm not really gonna need him for this battle since Pignite kinda solos. That being said, Pignite's who I decide to lead with, and on the first turn, I go for a flame charge, dealing 4 times super effective damage on Berg Swaddaloon. This easily takes the one shot and brings in the next Pokemon, Dwebble, who's a little bit more of a problem. Because Dwebble's a part rock type, my fire type moves are no longer super effective. All that really means is that Dwebble's gonna survive some attacks and deal some damage to me in the process. Eventually, Dwebble was able to take me down to 53 remaining before getting finished off by an arm thrust. With Dwebble gone, the final ace Pokemon, Leavanny, gets sent in, but to be honest, this doesn't really matter. Leavanny's got the exact same problem as Swaddaloon, so after getting the easiest one-shot of my life, Berg is forced to hand over my 3rd gym badge. Next up, we've got the 4th gym leader, Elisa, which will definitely be a way harder battle than this one. To get there, we first gotta go through Colress, but since his team only has pre-evolutions at this point, this battle's not too difficult. We've then gotta make our way through Route 4, where I find myself a ton of potentially useful items for the next gym battle. With the current team we have, we could likely beat Elisa, but it would be close, and I'd rather get some insurance, so I decide to start another shiny hunt. For this one, we go inside the desert resort, where there's a really high chance we encounter a Sandile. Unfortunately, this place must have the lowest shiny odds in the entire Pokemon universe because I sat here for almost 45 hours with no luck. This caused me to change my plans just a little bit, moving outside of the desert resort, and after running around for only 3 hours, I found this shiny Dwebble. Oh, that's it! That's it, that's the shiny! Bang, there we go! Wow, man, Dwebble's pretty cool. Dwebble's pretty cool. Not Sandile, but Dwebble's good too. My team's looking a little too much like Berg's team, so we'll have to change that a little later, but for now, I give Dwebble the nickname Grant, and check out its nature, which is Impish. This is a great nature, since I won't be using my special attack stat anyways. My ability Sturdy is more of the same, because with Shell Smash later on in the run, it can make for a really lethal combo. I'll show you more of what I mean later, because for now, I gotta go into Nimbasa City. While it's heading there, I'm stopped by this guy in a tuxedo who asks me to give my words on a few problems he has, and I let him know to the best best of my ability what I think, and just head forward straight into Nimbasa. Now that I'm here, I get to do a few story things, such as figuring out what hidden grottos are with Bianca, and also figuring out that this Minccino is not a shiny. From there, I see this couple on a date, and because I envy them, I make them face away from each other, because I think that's only right. I then find what is essentially a lost phone, and hopefully I get to bring this back to the person I was talking to, because they seemed kinda cool. Now I go into the old electric type gym just to figure out the new one was placed just next door. From there, I get myself some good items that'll help with my upcoming battle, and I also evolve my Swadloon into Leavanny. All that's left to do now is challenge Elisa, and she leads this battle with Emolga as I bring in Ramos. Emolga starts with a quick attack dealing 10 HP as I then go for a return that does about 2/3. With Emolga at about a third remaining, she decides to switch out with Volt Switch into Zebstrika. Zebstrika eats a return, activating her Citrus Berry, bringing her back up to about 3/4. I know Zebstrika is probably going to go for a Flame Charge, and we know what happens when Leavanny gets hit by Flame Charge, so I swap into my Pignite. Pignite doesn't take that much on the switch in, and on the following turn, we both exchange Flame Charges. With Zebstrika at a third, all it takes is one more Flame Charge to bring out the next Pokemon, Falafi. Falafi is not a problem, and with me having just learned the move Heat Crash, I decide to use that, dealing all of her HP. Last out is Emolga, who really can't do much to Leavanny, so I swap him in. All it takes from there is one return to end this battle, and with that, I've won my 4th gym badge. At this point, we're about halfway through the game, and this is when we experience our first real season change of the video, moving from winter to spring. The next step in my story is to help Loser beat some Team Plasma members, but remembering what he did to my Tepig earlier in the video, I decide to just let him fight that on his own. So instead of helping him out, I go back to Castelia City where I unexpectedly get Flash and move down into the sewers. The dust clouds that are down here can give me red shards, which I need for the move tutor in Driftvale City. Once I've got enough, I get into a battle with the motorcyclist Charles, who's also known as Heartbreaker Charles. I'm not really sure why he's named that though, since the only thing that broke in this triple battle were his Pokemon. Just past that point, I can get onto the Driftvale drawbridge and then go into Driftvale City where I meet up with a little bit of Team Plasma. To be honest, I'm not really listening to them though, I'm just listening to the background music of the city because geez, it's so good. That's besides the point though. Now that I'm here, I can use the move tutor I mentioned earlier to teach my Leavanny the move Seed Bomb. This will help me out a ton in the upcoming ground gym and even against Team Plasma that for some reason I have to fight. With all that out of the way, I can go ahead and give my Miracle Seed that I found earlier to Leavanny, and now that that's done, I can start my 5th gym battle. I didn't want to leave this battle with Leavanny because Croc has Intimidate, and with my attack lowered, I really can't do much. So instead, I lead with Dwebble to eat the Intimidate and set up Stealth Rock so I can switch into my Leavanny. Leavanny gets hit by a Torment on the switch in, and on the following turn, I go for a Seed Bomb that takes the Oko. Next up, Clay decides to send in his ace Pokemon, Excadrill, which can be a little bit threatening to me. Excadrill has Rock Slide, which it shows off on the first turn as it tries to go for it when I protect. Thankfully, no matter what, Rock Slide shouldn't kill unless it gets a crit, so I kinda have to risk it here and go for a Seed Bomb. This Seed Bomb does about 2/3 as Excadrill then hits me with a Rock Slide and thankfully doesn't get the crit on me. One more of the same move takes out Excadrill and leads me onto the final Pokemon, Sandslash. Thankfully, this thing isn't nearly bulky enough to survive a single Seed Bomb, so that's what I decide to do, going for it, taking the kill, and winning myself my 5th badge. Next up is going to be a pretty difficult gym against Skyla, and to get there, we've got to go through a lot, starting with this big competitive Pokemon tournament. In this tournament, we go up against a lot of familiar faces, such as my rival, Loser, Charon, and Chorus. As soon as I'm crowned the victor, we catch Team Plasma running towards the docks, and Chorus gives me some sort of cryptic message. He calls me and my acquaintances reckless, but I'm not sure why he would say something like that, so I'm gonna go charge headfirst straight into Team Plasma's ship. While I was on the ship helping Charon, my Dwebble evolved into a Crustle, and using this Crustle, I defeated all of the members on board. We then get kicked off the ship by the Shadow Triad, or maybe Triad, don't know how to say it. And from there, I could actually continue on into the story, going towards Chargestone Cave. This place has some great encounters, including Joltik, who evolves into Galvantula, which is one of my favorite Pokemon in this entire game. Let me know who's your favorite and why in the comments down below, but Galvantula is definitely up there for me. Regardless, as I was saying earlier, there are some great Pokemon here, so this is where I'm going to start my next shiny hunt. This one felt like it took forever, but it was actually way quicker than the previous, and after about 21 hours, I found this shiny Clink.
There it is! That's the shiny, let's go! Oh my gosh, that's good. Oh, it's so good. We can finally get started again.
Klink should be really useful in this upcoming gym battle as well as the rest of the game, and after giving it the nickname Wickstrom, I check out its nature and find out that it's Jolly. Jolly's probably the best nature I could have had, and it reaffirms what I said earlier about Klink being so good. Regardless, after so many hours, I'm done sitting in Chargestone Cave, so I run out of that place into Mistralton City. As soon as I get there, I'm greeted by Professor Junifer and Skyla, and for some reason I have to go find Professor Junifer in this big tower. After I do that, Yancy gives me a call, which makes me no longer jealous of the couple I met earlier because she says she's a girl. Then she gives me a tee-hee, which boosts my confidence and gets me ready for my fight against Skyla. Just before walking into the gym, I get 2 new evolutions, an Embor and a Clang. With these 2 new members, I go through the worst gym puzzle ever, then go ahead and challenge Skyla for my 6th badge. Skyla leads this fight with Swoobat as I lead with my Crustle. Crustle doesn't have access to Shell Smash yet, so instead of doing that, I go for a Rock Slide that gets a lucky crit and Okos. Next up is Skarmory, who doesn't do that much damage at all, so I switch to my Embor even though it's super effective against me. Embor takes a lot of damage here, but not nearly enough to kill me, so I take down the Skarmory with 2 Heat Crashes. Last up is the ace Pokemon Swanna, who's honestly my biggest worry for this fight. Against Swanna, I'm forced to switch into Clang to take not very effective damage from Air Slash. On the following turn, I go for a 4-time super effective Charge Beam that does half, activating Swanna's Citrus Berry. After the turn, I'm left with 53 HP remaining, which means on the next turn, if I get crit, I could die here. That being said, all I can do is hope Swanna doesn't crit, and thankfully she doesn't, which means I live another day and can finish off the Swanna with a Volt Switch. With Skyla defeated, the next big battles are the 2 gym leaders, Colress and Getsis, as well as the Elite Four. These are all things that I'm gonna have to analyze pretty soon since we're getting into the latter half of the game. As we're doing that, it's time to head towards our next location, which is across the Unova region in Letmas Town. The town has a move tutor that I could maybe utilize later, but for now, that's not really what I'm worried about, as there's a lot of good encounters here, and after looking at those gym leaders, I'm kinda terrified. That being said, it's time to look for my next team member in the grass on Reversal Mountain. This one took me shiny hunting on and off for almost 2 weeks straight until I eventually landed this shiny Trapinch.
Bang, Trapinch. Bang, there we go, Trapinch, and that's great. Oh, that's so huge. Flygon should be amazing later on. I'm so happy about that.
I give Trapinch the nickname Drasna, then check out the nature, which ends up being Lax, and I kinda don't like that. Regardless, the next step is to evolve Trapinch into Vibrava and start learning some good moves that'll be useful for Drayden. I try to see if I can find some moves in the Strange House, but that place was way too scary for me, so I ran out of there and straight into Reversal Mountain, where I meet up with Bianca. I essentially just hold her hand through there until I make it to Undella Town, where I walk inside this random person's house. There's nobody here I've got to worry about right now, but later on in the game, that might not be the case. Before taking on my rival in my next battle, I level up Grant a little bit until I eventually get the move Shell Smash, which is what I've been talking about the entire run. I want to show you guys how effective this move is by using it against my rivals on Pheasant. Once I've set up, I get +2 attack, +2 special attack, and +2 speed, which means I can outspeed key threats as well as potentially one-shot them. This is shown off immediately by OHKOing the Unpheasant as well as the Simisage that comes after. The last Pokemon Samurott shows off our weakness though, and that's basically just all priority moves. On top of that, if I don't kill, I'm put in a really vulnerable position, so I have to be careful in how I use this. Regardless, once Loser's defeated, I can move on into the story where I talk to Professor Junifer and Bianca. Soon after this point, I run into Team Plasma, who I quickly take care of, then I meet up with this man who has a 1,000 battle winning streak. Well, it's almost 1,000 battles. It's actually at 999, and since he's battling me, we know that streak is gonna break. To be honest, I'm not really sure who he was fighting against, maybe just youngster Joey, since he only had 2 Pokemon that were both fully weak to fire types. Now that I've gone through him, I can go into Opelucid City, and once I'm there, I start preparing for the 7th gym leader. Drayden's ace Pokemon Haxorus could be a major problem for me, so I go ahead and evolve my Vibrava into Flygon to hopefully help me out a little bit. Along with that, I utilize some heart skills that I found, as well as some move tutor moves to give my team a much needed boost in power. From there, I'm ready to challenge Drayden for my 7th badge, and he leads his battle with Druddigon as I do with Embor. With Embor, I initially outspeed, going for a Hammer Arm doing exactly half to Druddigon as I then get hit by a Slash, taking me down to 129 remaining. After getting hit by a Crunch, I can go for one more Hammer Arm to take down the Druddigon and bring out the next Pokemon, Flygon. Flygon's likely going for a ground type move, and to completely avoid this, I swap into my own Flygon with Levitate. Drayden's Flygon is level 46, and with mine being level 48, that means I can outspeed. That, paired with a Draco Plate I found earlier, means I can easily outspeed and one-shot, bringing me into the final ace Pokemon, Haxorus. Haxorus definitely outspeeds me, and could probably have killed with a crit from Dragon Claw, but for some reason, it decides to go for a Dragon Dragon Dance, which was a huge mistake. That means I can get off a free Dragon Pulse, and with the Draco Plate boost, I deal just enough damage to kill Haxorus, and with that, I've defeated Drayden. With the 7th gym badge acquired, I've got one more to go, and of course, this is where Team Plasma decides to get busy by putting Opalucid on ice. This is kind of just an evil act, and I'm not really sure why they're doing this, but I still decide to bring them some justice by going through each and every one of their members. As I'm doing that, I evolve my Clang into Kling Clang, then go ahead and fight the ice guy with my new steel type. This battle's about as easy as you'd expect it to be, and right after it, I'm given these DNA splicers, which are apparently super important, so obviously I get them stolen from me literally right away. I chase the thieves to Hamalu City, where I decide to take a quick break and fight the gym leader. Once I send Marlin back to his gym, I go through his little puzzle thingy and find this Starmie. Apparently that's not how you say that Pokemon's name, because in the last video I got killed in the comment section for pronouncing it that way, so from now on it's Starmie, I think. Yeah, I still don't really know. Regardless, it's time to fight Marlin, and he leads his battle with Caracosta as I decide to send in Wickstrom. With Wickstrom, I start by going for a Volt Switch to break Caracosta's sturdy so I can switch into Leavanny. This gives Caracosta the opportunity to set up Shell Smash, but since Leavanny's a really fast Pokemon, I'm still able to outspeed on the next turn and finish him off with a Leaf Blade. The next Pokemon to get sent in is Wailord, who gets dropped by the exact same move, and the same thing happens to the Jellicent that comes after. Those were Marlin's final 2 Pokemon, and once they're defeated, I've won my 8th and final gym badge. With all the gyms down, we are still deathless, and I can only hope we keep it that way going into Team Plasma and the Elite Four. Regardless, the next step on our journey is to meet up with Colress again so we can get his little machine so we can move this Crustle in Seaside Cave. Once we do that, we're able to board Team Plasma's boat, where we learn of their plans to essentially just destroy the entire world. After fighting them for a while, I eventually get kicked off their ship, and I'm forced to go meet up with them again in the Giant Chasm. This is where I end up boarding again, guessing at this passcode a couple of times until eventually I can go forward and fight Colress. Thankfully, due to the team I've been building, I'm able to do a lot of good damage with most of my Pokemon. This battle was a lot easier than anticipated. Since my Flygon has Earth Power, I was able to sweep most of his team with that. At this point, my next big battle is against Getsis, but since my team isn't even filled out yet, I decide to focus on that instead of the fight. Doing so means it's time to start another shiny hunt, and this one was one of the quickest I've ever done, and it only took me about 5.5 hours to land this shiny Vanillish. Typically, you wouldn't think of Vanillish as a really great Pokemon, but this ends up being one of the most influential encounters I got in this entire video. That being said, I give him the nickname Wolfric, find out he has a lax nature, then evolve him into a Vanillux. It's now time to go through this cutscene where Black Kyurem almost assassinates me, then after it I have to fight him, which is terrifying. Thankfully, I've got super effective steel type moves, so this battle wasn't as difficult as it could have been, and past this point, it's time to battle Getsis. He leads the fight with Cavagrigus as I send in Wickstrom, my Kling Clang. All Cavagrigus wants to do is set up Toxic, but considering I'm a steel type, I'm entirely immune. This allows me to set up a ton of shift gears and eventually take this Cavagrigus down with Gear Grind. I've set up so much now that I can outspeed and one-shot every single one of Getsis' remaining Pokemon. That right there wins me my final battle against Team Plasma, and after going through this really weird father-son moment, I'm finally done with the story and can head towards the Elite Four. On my way there, I say bye to N and have one final battle against my rival. Loser must think I forgot about my Tepig from earlier, because I guess he assumes I'll go soft on him in this battle, but I definitely don't, and absolutely destroy him with each of my Pokemon. Thankfully, that'll be the last time I have to see his dumb face in this run, because at this point, all I need to do is get ready for the Elite Four. Once my team is up to the level cap and I've rearranged my movesets, I'm ready for the final battles of this game. For this Elite Four, I wanted to start by going up against what could be my easiest matchup against Grimsley. I've got tons of answers for the Dark type, so when Grimsley leads with his Liepard, I send in my Crustle. In the early stage of this battle, my goal is to simply set up Shell Smash. Unfortunately, my Crustle being a dude is the worst thing I could have asked for, because Liepard's able to hit me with the move Attract. This move can immobilize me for the entire game, so I really just have to get lucky trying to get through it. It does cost me a few additional turns, but once I'm able to get up and running, I can set up that Shell Smash and go for an X-Scissor on the following turn. With my attack doubled, I am easily able to OHKO, which brings in the next Pokemon, Scrafty. Scrafty is a lot bulkier than Liepard, which means she'll actually survive an attack. Thankfully, I'm pretty bulky too though, and even with the defense drop from earlier, I can survive pretty much anything, assuming I don't get crit. That being said, I decide to go for an X-Scissor, which does about 2/3 as Scrafty hits me with a Crunch, taking me down to 61 remaining. One more X-Scissor takes Scrafty down and brings out the replacement, Crocodile. Crocodile's got the ability Intimidate, which lowers my attack stat by 1 stage, but since she's already got a really low defense stat, all I need to do is go for just one X-Scissor. This takes Crocodile's entire health bar and forces Grimsley Brimsley to send out his ace Pokemon, Bisharp. Bisharp being part steel is a little bit too much for my Crustle to handle, so I swap out into Emboar to make it more manageable. I did end up unintentionally risking a crit here, but it didn't matter much since I got away with it and was able to finish off Bisharp with a Heat Crash. That right there wins me my first Elite Four battle and means I can head off towards my second. We're still deathless, and the next matchup we have is against Caitlyn and her Psychic types. She leads his battle with Musharna as I bring out my Vanilluxe. On the first turn, I get to find out how useful Vanilluxe really is by going for a taunt. This move essentially fully walls Musharna as it prevents her from putting me to sleep. Now that that's the case, I swap out into my Leavanny and set up a Swords Dance. After just one of those, I'm at +2 attack, which means I'm dealing more than enough damage to take her down. This leads into the next Pokemon, Sigilyph, who experiences the exact same fate as Musharna. In fact, this happens with every single one of Caitlyn's Pokemon, all of them being one-shot by X-Scissor. With that battle finished up, I'm off towards my third against Chantal, and to be honest, her team is really scary. She's got 4 pretty strong Pokemon and decides to lead with one in Cavagrigus as I send in Vanilluxe. With Vanilluxe, I start with an Ice Beam that does a little over half as I then get hit by a Will-O-Wisp that burns me. This burn isn't too difficult to deal with since I'm a special attacker, and with one more Ice Beam, I get to take down Cavagrigus. This leads into the next Pokemon, Chandelure, who's a lot more of a problem. Chandelure is 100% going for the move Fire Blast, and if it lands, it's gonna one-shot nearly all of my Pokemon. The only real option I have is to switch into Flygon and hopefully not get crit. Thankfully, the 1 in 16 chance doesn't happen, leaving me at 82 HP remaining, and since I actually outspeed Chandelure, I can go for an Earth Power on the following turn. Due to the Soft Sand that I'm carrying, this Earth Power does just enough damage to drop her, bringing out the next Pokemon, Golurk. Golurk's not particularly difficult to deal with, all I need to do is pivot into Klinklang and then Leavanny. Once Leavanny's in, I can freely go for a Leaf Blade, which takes all of Golurk's health, bringing out the final Pokemon, Drifbloom. Drifbloom's not really that strong, so thanks to a few of my different Pokemon, I can eventually take her down, and that wins me my third Elite Four battle. Last up is Marshall and his fighting types, and he leads this battle with Throw as I bring out my fighting type in Emboar. I start by going for a Flamethrower that does almost half as Throw then tries to hit me with a Rock Tomb but misses. After a Heat Crash brings Throw into healing range, he hits me with a super effective Bulldoze, lowering my speed by 1 stage. On the turn that Marshall heals, I go for a Flamethrower that gets a burn, which is actually going to be really useful. Once Throw decides to attack me again, he actually outspeeds and hits me with a critical hit Storm Throw, bringing me down to 15 HP remaining. Thankfully, due to that residual burn damage, my Heat Crash does just enough damage to kill and bring up the next Pokemon, Mienshao. With Emboar already so low, I'm forced to switch out into my Leavanny, but this is actually what I wanted to do. Leavanny eats a Retaliate, which isn't so great, but it doesn't matter, since now I can start freely setting up Swords Dance. The reason I can do this is because Mienshao sees the kill with the move Bounce, and since Bounce takes 2 turns to hit me, I can go for a Protect every time it's going to hit. This gives me a couple of turns of downtime, which means I can set up Swords Dance in that time, bringing me to +4. Now that I'm at that point, I can take down the Mienshao with a one-shot and do the same thing with the following Pokemon, Conkeldurr. This leads me on to the last Pokemon, Sawk, who has the ability Sturdy, which means I need to switch into my Flygon to deal with the rest of this battle. After a Dragon Claw and Earth Power combo, Sawk gets finished off, and I've won my final Elite Four battle. Now, going into the champion of this run, we remain deathless. Iris is for sure the most difficult battle in this game, as she leads this fight with her pseudo-legendary Hydreigon. I send in my Crustle to counter since he can't get one shot because of the ability Sturdy. On the first turn, I take some pretty big damage from a Surf, taking me down to 41 remaining, as I then set up a Shell Smash, bringing me to +2 in all my important stats. With my offenses blazing, I can do just enough damage with X-Scissor to take down the Hydreigon. Next up is Lapras, and all I need to do to kill her is land a Rock Slide, which I thankfully do. This brings me on to the third Pokemon, Druddigon, whom I can't one-shot, so I've got to switch out. I move into Emboar to do half with a Hammer Arm, then immediately have to switch out as Druddigon's brought me down to 19 HP. Due to that Hammer Arm, I can actually switch out into Flygon and finish off Druddigon's remaining health with the Dragon Claw. This causes Iris to send in her next Pokemon, Archeops, which is a little bit challenging for me. I do have a plan for him, however, and that's to switch into my Klinklang and start to set up with Shift Gear. After 2 of those, I can go for a super effective Gear Grind that one-shots the Archeops. The next Pokemon sent in is Aggron, who honestly I thought I would just take out with a single gear grind, but I was totally wrong. I barely did 2/3 to her, and if I hadn't gotten lucky, she would have killed me with an earthquake. Thankfully, because shift gear also increases my speed, I think the AI thought that it wanted to increase its speed as well, going for an automize. Still, pretty lucky I didn't die there. With one more move, I was able to take down the Aggron, which led me on to the final Pokemon, the ace Pokemon, Haxorus. This is where my luck unfortunately ran out as I went for a gear grind and missed. This set up the perfect opportunity for Haxorus to go for an earthquake, and with that, my Klinklang was defeated. That right there was incredibly disappointing, but it did end up being my first and last death of this run, as I can switch into Vanillix now and start going for Ice Beam. With 3 consecutive Ice Beams, I deal enough damage to take down the Haxorus, and with that, I've won my final battle of this run. Now that I'm the champion of Unova, I can basically do whatever I want. Catch any Pokemon, go to any location, even this random house in Undella Town. On second thought, I'm not sure if this was a good idea. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one.